evening, everyone. Hello, good evening. Thank you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to open up the meeting with our public hearing first. And is anyone from DOT here right now? I don't see anyone, but I just want to make sure. Okay, with that being said, we're going to move down to agenda item number 2, which is Felipe Cortez, planner from HPD Brooklyn Planning, and Drew Vanderberg, project manager at Riseboro. They're presenting on the ULURP application for the Bushwick Alliance project. Only 63 Stockholm Street requires the ULURP. And I will let them take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Hello.
I'm Drew, here from Felipe. Get this TV turned back on.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me without the microphone, or do I need a microphone? It's a mic?
So we can hear you.
Okay. I'm not very used to this stuff. Good evening, everyone. As Celeste mentioned, my name is Felipe Cortez. I'm from the department, from the NYC Department of Housing Preservation and Development. With me tonight is my coworker Lin Seng, Director of HPD Brooklyn Planning, and members of the development team working on the project that we will present and discuss tonight. The development team includes, as mentioned, Riseboro, St. Nick's, and the staff architects. As a first step on the ULURP process, excuse me, we are very excited to be here tonight presenting the 63 Stockholm Street ULURP application to the full board of Community Board number 4. 63 Stockholm Street will be a new four-story building with approximately 20 new rental units of affordable housing. 63 Stockholm Street is also part of a larger project named Bushwick Alliance that includes 2 additional development sites, one located at 272 Jefferson Street and another one at 332 Elder Street. As these 2 development sites will be developed with smaller buildings containing up to 4 units each, they do not require ULURP, but they will go through the city's accelerated UDAP approval process for the disposition approvals. So with that said, I will be clear, and the meeting tonight, the purpose of tonight's meeting is basically to present, discuss, and hear your vote on 63 Stockholm Street ULURP application. In summary, the Bushwick Alliance, the whole Bushwick Alliance project will be 28 units, 28 new units of rental housing, of affordable housing units, developed across 3 4-story buildings in Bushwick. Let me walk you through tonight's agenda. I will start the presentation providing you an update on the ULURP application. Then I will describe the land use action the ULURP application is seeking. Then I will provide some details on the current conditions of the development side. I will describe also the project location and the surrounding area. Hello? Yeah. Then the development team will provide us a description of the proposed project, detailing including the affordability levels and the building design. Then the team will walk us through the 2 additional development sites. Then we will discuss the project timeline. And after the timeline, we will have time to questions. So please keep track of your questions as we go so we can talk about it and resolve it later. Thank you, Drew. All right, so the ULURP application for 63 Stockholm Street was certified on September 24, 2018. HPD and the development team already met with the land use committee of Community Board number 4 2 weeks ago to present the project. And as I mentioned before, tonight we're here to present you the project to the full board of the Community Board, or Community Board 4. The ULURP action, it's seeking UDAP designation and project approval, and also the disposition of the city-owned land located at 63 Stockholm Street, block 3243, lot 65. The development site is conditions is basically is currently vacant. It's a city-owned vacant lot of approximately 7,500 square feet of lot area. Can we go to the next one? Thank you.
Yep.
The site location. The development site is located in 63 of Stockholm Street on the west side of Stockholm Street, south of Central Avenue, north of Evergreen Avenue, and west of, east of DeKalb Avenue. The development site is within a transit zone that encompasses all of Brooklyn Community District 4. The development site is well served by public transit, as we can see with a little bit of difficulty here in the map. The J, M, and C subway train stations are located within approximately half a mile of the development site. And also, bus services include the B38 and the B52. The surrounding area around the development site is predominantly residential, with 1 and 2 family as well as multi-family residential buildings ranging from 2 to 4 stories. And commercial uses can be found around Central and Myrtle Avenues. As I mentioned before, the Bushwick Alliance project also includes development sites located at 332 Elder Street and 272 Jefferson Street, which we will learn more details later when Drew describes it. Before handing over the presentation to Drew and other members of the development team maybe, I would like to say that we are very excited to be here presenting you this project, and very excited to be working with Riceboro and St. Nick's in this project, as it will create a much needed affordable housing at a currently vacant and underutilized city-owned sites. So now, hand it over to you, Drew.
Thank you very much, Felipe, HPD. So Riceboro and St. Nick's are here tonight to present the project, answer any questions that you have. I'll try to keep it short because I know we have a packed program. So I'll let the slideshow be my guide. So this is the site plan. The building, which will be this 20-unit building, 63 Stockholm, will take up the front portion of the lot, and there will be a backyard as well. And this tells you the unit sizes. Out of the 20 units, we've got 5 studios, 8 one-bedrooms, and 7 two-bedrooms. And the affordability for the building will have 2 units at 37% AMI, 11 units at 47% AMI, and 7 units at 77% AMI, for a total of 20 units. This presentation will also include the affordabilities for the other 2 buildings, which is a total of 28 units, and they're all affordable, under 77 to 80% AMI or less. So let's continue on. This is the design for the building that will go up at 63 Stockholm. 4 stories, 20 units. Like I said, 37% AMI to 80% AMI. And it will be a passive house building. This is something that Riceboro is really excited about, and it's, well, globally it's not a new thing, but on the East Coast of the United States it's a new thing, which is really airtight buildings that are energy sustainable, with solar panels on the roof and a certain type of ventilation systems that keep it really comfortable for the tenants, and very efficient in terms of energy use, which means less utility bills for the tenants as well. So solar panels, a laundry room, bicycle storage, a backyard, and then the total building will be 1,900 square feet. We're excited about this design from Stat Architecture. Now we're zooming out to the whole project, which includes the other 2 sites. So you can see it's a scattered site project. The other 2 buildings are just 4 units, so they didn't require the ULURP. And there's your 63 Stockholm there, with the 2 smaller ones up between Irving and Knickerbocker. So this is the other small building, which is on Jefferson. Currently, it's a vacant lot, overgrown with a decaying building, and we'll build this instead. So it's 2,500 square feet right now, currently owned by Neighborhood Restore. Riceboro received this lot through the third-party transfer program, like back in 2004, and we've been waiting for an opportunity to develop this 4-unit affordable housing project here. And I'm also happy to report that this the 2-bedroom units in this building are actually 2.5 bedrooms. It contains like small studios, which, I mean, they're like studies. It could be used for like a young child. It's just a little bit undersized for a bedroom. And then location number 3 is 332 Eldert, a very narrow lot here, which is also vacant city-owned land, currently owned by HPD. It will be transferred to St. Nick's and Riseboro, and we'll put 4 more units of rental housing there. Also between 37 to 80% AMI. So those are the 2 other buildings. This is just a general project overview. We have 3 buildings, 28 units, all affordable, a mix of bedroom sizes, passive house design, and applications will be available through New York Housing Connect. It's a housing lottery project. And then the last slide is just an overview of the timeline of the project, so you can get an idea when to expect this building to be ready. Right now we're going through the public approval process. We're here at community board hearings. We'll be meeting with the borough president, and we go through the whole ULIP process between now and next summer. And then in the second half of next year, we'll move ahead with the financing and finalizing all the project details, and then we would love to be in construction, TBD, in early 2020. And that's it. So happy to answer questions or continue on. Yes?
My name is Anthony Rosado, Bushwick native. It's my birth. So you've said affordable housing many times. And the issue that I know that I've taken with affordable housing and that phrase is that it actually doesn't tend to meet the needs of the long-term residents who live within this community. As I'm sure you know, as you're repeating the phrase so many times. So with that being said, my first of 3 questions is, what is the average salary of a family that will be able to afford, let's say, the 2-bedroom apartment off of Jefferson?
Great question.
Because 70% AMI will confuse people in this room, so I'd like to not confuse the people in this room. What is the average salary for, let's say, that 2-bedroom to be moved in?
So I don't want to get into every single number here, but
No, you don't have to. This is an example, so that's why I'm not picking out every single apartment. I'm picking one specific apartment so that we can look at one average salary so that we get an idea.
So let's go back here to this 2-bedroom you were asking about on Jefferson. So there's between 37 and 80% AMI, and so a 2-bedroom, you said?
What is the average salary of the family that will be moving into that space so that they can afford that space?
In the 2-bedroom, at 37% AMI, it would be $34,732 a year.
$34,000. Okay. Just raise your hand in this room if you think that that's affordable housing. $34,000.
Your salary is 34.
The salary, of course, but like being able to afford this house. Is that affordable for here? Does that make sense? I see a lot of confused faces.
No, it shouldn't be. This is the AMI guidelines. I'm chairperson of the Housing and Land Use Committee. And if I may interrupt, that is the AMI guidelines. That's the city and the state, and that's the AMI guidelines promulgated by the state of New York and the city of New York.
Okay.
We can only accept this. We're not happy with it either. And at this point, there's very little that we can do because it is mandated by the state of New York and the city of New York for the AMI is for the area median income. So unfortunately, as most of you in here well know, they take the entire income from the metropolitan area, which is very unfair because the people that live on Fifth Avenue make $10 million a year, and then we here in Bushwick are lucky to make $26,000.
Yeah, the point that I'm making is just as someone who's experienced displacement 5 times.
Yes.
My mother's a single parent who raised 5 kids on her own.
Yes.
Under $10,000 a year. I'm
Yes.
just trying to make a point.
No, yes, but
I'm just
unfortunately
gonna go to my second
also,
question.
Do you
we
mind
are
if I did prepare one thing that might help clarify this, because I know we could talk about this for quite a long time. Riseboro and St. Nick's care deeply about providing affordable housing, which is permanently affordable at a variety of income levels. And so for this project, the lowest rent that may be paid is $579 a month. And the maximum rent that will be paid in this project is $1,507 a month. So I'm sorry, no, it's 17. It's 1749.
Okay, 1740.
But so between 500 and 1700, generally speaking.
Is there another question?
Yeah, what do you need from the board? Because I said I had 3, but I'm actually going to ask 2. What do you need from the board in order to make this happen?
Take that one.
We're basically here to hear the board can recommend things that we can the team can incorporate into the project. So basically,
Before I interrupt you, what happened was it goes through a committee. Committee makes a recommendation, and then the full board will vote on it today if we want them to go through. That's how the process goes. So if anyone wants to join any committee at the end of the board meeting, we encourage you to attend any committee that's there, and that's where the recommendations are made. Here is just a point, information for you to the people in the community, answers your question, and then we're gonna move our agenda right along. Thank you. And it goes from us to the borough president to the elected officials, so, and city planning. Any other questions in regards to the proposal that's on 63 Stockholm? If none,
Last time we talked in our community development meeting, we talked about MWBE goals, and since then, the Comptroller's Office has given their grade for HPD, and it didn't come out quite well when it came down to minority and women entrepreneurs, but then it comes down to contracting and professional services. You guys got an F. So with all this new construction, how are you planning on meeting the Comptroller's goals, and especially when you already have an in-house program called Build Up with HPD, but it doesn't seem like even with the in-house resources, and I know this goes past Riceboro, I'm talking directly to HPD, it goes past, you guys haven't really met the needs of the community when it comes down to minority and women contractors. So how are you planning on doing it here? Because just your normal outreach, obviously, by the comptroller data and research, you haven't made the grade. So how are you going to make it on this?
Well, in this case, HPD always encourage development teams to hire as much as they can MWBEs, like companies, organizations, or like entrepreneurs. In this case, Riceboro, the architect of the project, is an MWBE, and Drew and St. Nick's are committed to.
Mean the overall financial goal. Just because we have one, it goes by the money. So you may need several.
Well, my next part of the answer was like Riceboro and St. Nick's are committed to continue hiring like MWBEs in the process. So I guess that we will see what happens in the following days of the project. But as of now, I guarantee you that the team has taken the steps already hiring MWBE architect.
But that's not really like an action plan. You understand what I'm saying? Like, because if you got a feeling grade by the comptroller by your utilization rates, meaning that there should have been somebody going back and say no, but there's a lot of MWBs in this community. So when you brush it off kind of like that, it means you don't.
I'm not brushing off.
All right, so let's all right. So I'm just looking at body language.
Okay.
So when you do that, it kind of makes me seem like you don't really care about the kind of MWBE businesses that can actually benefit from this construction that's going on, and how we can actually bring that economic development to the community. So when I'm already saying that there is proof that you have a failing grade of not having inclusion, I want to know what have you done to rectify that, so that way in this project we have a lot more MWBE inclusion within the Bushwick area. Simple question, you can say, hey, we're going to begin the plan, or...
Hi, sorry, Lynn from HPD. I work with Felipe. Actually, I'm not aware of the report from the controller, so we're going to go back and look at it, but we definitely hear you, and I think what you're raising is something that we also want to address over time. So we'll take a careful look at the report and see the areas that we could improve on, and we hope to report back to the board at some point, probably, hopefully for this project as this moves along. So we definitely hear you. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we're going to move on with our agenda.
thank you.
Seeing none, we want to thank you, HPD and Riceboro, for coming, and St. Nick's Alliance. Can we give them a round of applause, please? Okay, so now we have, I believe I saw DOT. Okay. While they're getting ready, is Mr. Gabriel Check here as well? Okay, as a matter of fact, while you're getting set up, DOT, I'm gonna go ahead and move our agenda along, so that way you can have your presentation ready. Okay. This is Mr. Gabriel Check, agenda item number 3. He's a property owner applicant for 1090 Green Avenue, the Daring Bohack House. He's presenting proposed plans to remove the current porch and build a more appropriate one, and this is gonna go before the Landmarks Preservation Commission.
Yep. Hello. Hopefully this is a little bit less contentious. I want to put a porch on my house. I bought, I don't know if anybody, I have pictures of the house here. Sorry, I don't have a larger presentation like that. But the house now has a very inappropriate porch that's falling down. And, sure, thank you very much. That'd be great. So the porch now is falling down, it's about to fall down, and Landmarks wants me to, come and present to you. There you go. Here, it's over on Green Avenue, and what we're proposing is actually the porch that we think would have been there in 1888 when it was originally built. We found an old fire insurance map that showed that the porch would go all the way across the front here. Maybe we can turn around and show them here. The porch should have been going across the whole front of the house. And we have plans for it. Pretty much it's going to follow the architectural design of the house. And they also, on the back of the house, if you can see here, we are going to add a small porch on the back. Yep.
Can everyone see that?
I hope so. Can you see? Would you like me to bring it closer?
Yes, I do.
Okay, sure.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, sure, you do. Right. Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah. Questions? Okay.
Is this coming before us because this is a historical or landmark?
I have to go in front of Landmarks, so this is really just a step up in the process I have to take. Okay.
Okay.
Sure, I do. Okay, so what we're going to do here, I don't know if you can see from here, it's a pretty much something you would expect in a Victorian house. We have a Victorian spindles coming across, and it goes across the whole front.
Right now, there's currently a staircase leading down to the
Yep, and that's going to remain.
That's going to stay there?
Yeah.
We,
Check maybe, the chairperson and I figure maybe you should give a little background of the historical aspect of your house.
Sure.
On Green and Goodwin Place, and maybe they'll get an idea of the landmarking and.
Okay, it was originally owned by a florist, and the house actually used to be on the corner of Grove and Goodwin. And then in 1902, they moved the house to its current location on the corner of Goodwin and Green. The owner was a man called Mr. Bohack, who had hundreds of stores around Brooklyn. And he had the corner lot, and he tore down what was there and moved this one here. And we think they used horses and wheels and carts. We don't know. But they did a big renovation in 1902, and I actually met the family who tore down the original porch. They moved there in 1928, and her daughters came. They're in their 80s, almost 90, and they came to the house the other day, and they confirmed that it used to be a porch there, but her uncle was a doctor. And they put a doctor's office in the basement, and they were the ones who dug out the current stairs to the basement, and they took down the porch so that the porch didn't go over top of the basement stairs. And so the Bohacks had it till 1941 when I think I've filled in all the blanks with all the owners. There's one owner I haven't met along the way. Yeah, everybody's been showing up. Yeah.
Everybody know where this house is? It's on the corner of Goodwin Place and Green Avenue, and the main street would be Broadway and Bushwick. It's a historical house. As he said, the house belonged to Mr. Bohack, who owned the Bohack Supermarkets, was a famous supermarket back in the day, like A&P and other. As a matter of fact, they may have been here before A&P. So that's why I asked him to give you an idea of the historical background of that location. We do have a few historical mansions in Brooklyn and Bushwick, and we'll go through that. If you join the Landmarks Commission, you'll know where they are.
Okay.
And he had already came through the board before. So all he's asking is, again, to put his paperwork in to fix the porch that he bought the building. That's all it is. That's all he's asking for. He's asking for nothing more than that. Thank you. Yeah.
Sure. It's a two-family now.
It's a big mountain.
It's already been renovated, and this is the last thing I have left to do is the porch.
So it'll remain a two-family?
Oh, yeah, I can't change. It's a landmark. This is what it is.
Okay, moving right along.
That wraps up agenda item number 3. Thank you, Mr. Check. All right. So we're going to move along in the public hearing agenda. We're going to go back to agenda item number 1, which is Department of Transportation. We have here this evening, I believe, David Breen, Deputy Director, and Jessica Kronstein, Urban Designer. They're presenting on the capital reconstruction of Myrtle Wyckoff Plaza. So this will be the second time, I believe, if not more, coming before the board for this project, but there are updates this evening. I'll let you take it away.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leroy Branch, and I'm the Community Coordinator for Community Board 4. So I'm the person you're probably going to see all the time going forward in terms of when DOT comes before the board. I have with me this evening Jessica Kronstein and David Breen, who will be speaking about the capital project that we're going to be doing at the Myrtle Wyckoff Plaza, which is already in place. We had came to you some years ago to talk about the plaza and how important it was to put it there to make it safe for pedestrians, to make it safe for bicyclists, and to make it safe all around in terms of this particular area. So we're coming back before you. We had mentioned at that time that we were going to have a capital project dedicated to the plaza and building it out. So that's what we're going to be presenting this evening. Okay?
Thanks, Leroy. And so building on what Leroy said, I think it's important to sort of start at the beginning. It's important to remember that this started as a safety project, right? There were 3 fatalities in this intersection between 2009 and 2014. And then post-implementation, we've seen huge safety benefits, 100% decrease in cyclist injuries, 57% decrease in motor vehicle occupant injuries, 48% decrease in crashes with injuries, and 40% decrease in crashes altogether. And you know, we had tried earlier to ban some turns. We saw poor ban compliance. I think a lot of that had to do, you know, we've all been to this intersection. It's hard to see what is going on. And so it was really confusing. And there was traffic coming sort of from all over. And so a big part of this project was simplifying the intersection. And we did that by taking out Wyckoff between Gates and Palmetto. And so these are the post-implementation traffic numbers. And, you know, we see it hasn't made a huge dent in how traffic is flowing through there, and the intersection is hugely simplified. We also see over 4,000 pedestrians using this space during the PM peak hour. So leading up to this, so before implementation in 2016, we did outreach. We did a couple of workshops as well as a one-day plaza. And at the one-day plaza, we asked people if they would want to see a plaza in this neighborhood, and 95% said yes. And of those respondents, 82% lived in Bushwick or Ridgewood, based on the zip codes they provided. Leading up to now, in August, we went back out and we did a similar survey And we asked people what their relationship was to the neighborhood when they were responding. 79% said they lived in the neighborhood. And of those responding, 96% said yes, they would want to see this plaza built out in permanent materials. And that was out of 117 respondents. And now I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, David.
Hi, good evening. I'm David Breen. I'm Deputy Director of Public Space at New York City DOT. First, just a couple of slides about what we have been doing since the 2 years that we cut the ribbon at Mercer-Wyckoff Plaza. It's almost 2 years to the day, early December 2016. So just a couple of slides about what we've been doing since that time, and then I'm going to move into what we plan to do as part of the upcoming capital reconstruction. So we have been working with our own maintenance crews since that time, during that time, who take the lead on all of the daily maintenance and sanitation tasks. They sweep, they bag the trash, they set up furniture, they replant the plantings seasonally and as and when needed. And those tasks will all continue as we transition from this interim phase into the capital phase. In addition to the maintenance efforts, we've also been working with a bunch of programming partners as well to provide different types of programming and trial a few different types of programming in the plaza as well, just to add to all of the daily activity that happens there, just as a consequence of being right on a major corridor like Myrtle Avenue and being at a major transit interchange between the subway and the bus. But we worked with a group called the Queen's Night Market, who trialed a 29-day vendors market in the site. And then we were also working a lot with the Myrtle Avenue Bid, who's on the Queen's side, the Ridgewood side, to produce some smaller scale programming as well. So that's what we have been doing. Now moving into what we expect to happen as a result of the capital reconstruction. So right now we're working with our colleagues at the Department of Design and Construction, who are currently managing a very large DEP water main project on Wyckoff Avenue, which runs from Cooper Avenue right the way to Flushing. So it's a really large project, and Mercer-Wyckoff Plaza is pretty much right in the middle of that scope of work. So we've been fortunate that we've been able to coordinate the two efforts, which means that we're able to deliver the capital reconstruction of this space on an expedited timeline. It's going to happen a bit faster than it would under normal circumstances. And hopefully that means in a more cost-effective manner as well. So the areas in orange that are shown on the slide here, on the screen here, are the areas that will be reconstructed. So the entire street, all of Wyckoff Avenue, will be reconstructed as for the DEP water main work. But in addition to that work, we'll also be building out all of the areas in orange in concrete as well, and raising those up to sidewalk level. So we're able to make the interim enhancements that we delivered those 2 years ago permanent by virtue of this project. Just looking at some of the details that we plan to implement and construct as part of the effort. As I said, everything will be reconstructed in concrete. Everything that is currently at roadway level will be raised to the level of the sidewalk, so it will be one consistent flat surface right the way across. We're able to plant some new trees. We're able to upgrade all of the street lighting to make it a lot brighter and lighter in the area, and then provide some additional amenities like bike racks and benches, as well as some movable furniture and some other plantings to green the space a bit. Throughout all of that, or post-construction rather, FDMY access, which currently exists right the way through the space, will continue. So even after its reconstruction, the fire department will still be able to move through the space, even despite it being in its permanent state. So FDMY access will be preserved at all times. As I mentioned, we're able to upgrade the street lighting as part of this effort too. So right now, the existing street lighting is lighting this particular block as if it was open to regular traffic. So you have full height, typical 30-foot street lights, which obviously is more appropriate for cars and less so for people. So as part of this project, we'll be able to lower the lighting to bring it to a more pedestrian scale and upgrade it to LED as well, which will bring a brighter quality of light, making it lighter and more inviting when it's dark. These are some of the images about just some of the items that we'll be able to add as part of the project. So as I said, new movable furniture and umbrellas, additional trash cans, DOT wayfinding as part of our Walk NYC wayfinding program, city benches, bike racks, and the new lighting as I described. So this is an example which is somewhat close by. This is downtown Brooklyn. This is Willoughby Plaza, right by the J Street Metrotech station, which is just, we've included this as it's a very similar example. So if you're familiar with the area, you can expect very similar treatments to happen at Mercer Wyckoff. Again, all DOT standard concrete paving, and then typical movable furniture, plantings, and lighting, and so on. So if you're not familiar, this is a good example to take a look at to get a sense of what's happening or what will be happening at Mercer Wyckoff. So here's just a quick rundown on the schedule. The construction itself will all be managed by the Department of Design and Construction. They'll be responsible for delivering this schedule, but this is what we're working to right now. So obviously this evening we are here with you at CB4 to present. We presented to your counterparts on the Queen's side last month in September rather. We gave the same presentation. Working with DDC, we plan to finalize all of the design this winter, and then construction is expected to start in the spring of 2020, which is typical from a city procurement sort of timeline. We're expecting that the contractor will get to the plaza. As I said, the project itself is part of this much larger DEP effort, so we expect the contractor to get to the plaza about a year into their contract, so in the spring of 2021. The work itself is fairly straightforward, so it should only take a few months. DDC is saying that work should be done by August of 2021. And then the overall project, so the continuation of the water main work, will run through September 2022. So that's the overall timeline, including the full reconstruction of Wyckoff Avenue. And that's what we have. So we're very, very happy to answer any questions that you may have right now.
Willie, could you turn the lights on? Willie's not there. Willie, could you turn the lights back on? Before I hand this outlined, as you know, this board voted this down, but eventually, I guess Queens had more pull than we did, but that's besides the point. Did Queens sit down and do this graphic and make plans on where everything goes, or without us?
No, the plan was produced by the Department of Design and Construction.
Okay, because I see only on our side you putting all the trees. You know, let's spread love. If you look on this side, everything is on Bushwick side. So let's move some over to the, maybe you can bring some more of the love to the other side, for they could pick up leaves too, not only us.
Yeah. So the just on that, I think it's a good observation.
It is a good observation, because we love trees in Bushwick, but not that much. But move them over. Let's get Queens some love too. Not only our side, you know.
Sure.
We want to be fair and impartial. Let's be fair and impartial, and let's bring them to both sides, not only one side.
So just so you know, that was an intentional move on our part. What's right below the subway station, right below the building here is the L train. That gives very limited cover, very limited opportunity for tree planting. So we planted the trees where we could.
That side, I'm talking about on the Myrtle side across the street by the Dunkin' Donuts that's there. I know the place very well. The gym that's there. You know, bring some over there on that side. There's no problem there. I know there ain't. So, you know, let's move it on this side. I'm not talking about, you know, why you did it over there. I know why you didn't do it there. I mean on the other side.
Yep.
Yep.
We're happy to take a look at it. Like I said, the subway presents a lot of constraints, but we're happy to take a look.
Okay, and you say transit has, I'm sorry. the reason you didn't put the trees, or don't plan on planting trees on the other side is due to the subway stations?
Correct. The depth of the tunnel doesn't allow us to plant trees over it. It's too
In other
shallow.
words, so that's an order from the MTA.
Sorry, say that.
In
that
other
last part
words,
again.
that's the rules of the MTA.
Yes,
I see.
they stipulate tree planting depths when you're planting over their infrastructure.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
But I'm not talking on the infrastructure. I'm talking on the other side where the gym is, where the Dunkin' Donuts is, all on this side. Not on, this is the train.
Understood.
Okay.
You obviously have the M, which is on the elevated. It's the L, which is below ground, which is where the conflict is. Right. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm happy to investigate it further. That's absolutely fine. The red line is for FDNY access. We have to keep that clear. The particular area that you were pointing to is above the L train. So that's the reason why we haven't been able to plant there. But happy to take a look.
Other questions? Okay. Bridget?
I'm sorry, Bridget, speak up, please.
I was curious about the kiosk, and if there is a current tenant identified, or can you just share a little bit more about how the kiosk will function?
Sure.
Thank you.
So with all of our street reconstruction projects, when we're capitally reconstructing any of our plazas, we like to make an allowance for a kiosk to operate in the future. And that by allowance, I mean we like to provide utilities to a point like power, water, and sewer. In the event that someone should like to operate a kiosk at that point, then we wouldn't have to disturb the work that we've just invested in and built to create those connections. So as part of this project, we'll be providing utilities to that point, but there's no plans to install a kiosk at this time.
Please come up to the, okay, mic is coming to you.
Hi, my name is Melissa. My question is, there are existing food trucks and vendors on this plaza, and how will they be affected by the construction of, of the new plaza? Yeah.
So the vending that happens there right now is regulated by two agencies, by the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Department of Health. Any vending any legal vendor which satisfies the criteria of those two agencies can still occur. So as it particularly relates to the street, that's all in proximity to the curb. So as long as they're falling within the criteria of those two agencies and they meet the siting criteria which is stipulated as part of their permit, then they can continue to legally be present.
Okay, yep. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My question is in regards to the side streets. As you've already heard, Bushwick was not too keen on putting the plaza there. So I saw you put some stats up earlier in regards to the decrease in accidents, so on and so forth. So I was wondering if you had any stats about that.
Decrease in
for the side streets. Do you have any stats on the side streets? Because that was one of the main issues, the increased traffic flow and...
No, not offhand. No, we only have the data for the block that we closed, but that's something we could investigate further on.
Yeah, if you could get back to us on those stats, that'd be great.
Next question.
So earlier you talked about outreach and you talked about the way that that outreach responded. I guess two questions is like, what were your methods of outreach and what was the demographic of the people that you outreached?
Sure. So we conducted outreach in two ways primarily. One through DOT's outreach portal, which is an online portal which anyone could obviously access to, and we worked with our street ambassador teams to distribute flyers in the space, and then also I believe at a nearby library as well, to make folks aware of that opportunity. And then the main effort was actually in the space itself over the course of a couple of days to where we, as shown in the photo, I can flick back to it, We had a team of DOT staff out in the space, actually with boards showing very much the same level of detail that we have right here, presenting the project and answering questions, and then inviting folks to take a survey as well. And some of the questions that we asked for were obviously, would you like to see the plaza be reconstructed permanently? We asked about their relationship to the space. So do they live in the area? Do they work in the area? How often do they pass through? Do they typically spend time in the plaza or have they been spending time in the plaza since it was implemented? We asked basic demographic information about age and gender, and then zip code comes. Then zip code gives us the zip code or corner gives us the the residential component.
Okay. Because the concern is that there aren't really any cultural demographic markers, which wouldn't really help tell us who were the people who were telling you. Because you could have had like 80% gentrifiers tell you that we're super down and about this cause, whereas like I'm trying to figure out like how did you actually like I understand you were like, do you live in Bushwick, do you work here, but like is that all you did? Like are you?
So we did ask like basic ethnicity questions, but it's all self-reporting, right? So we can get back to you with those numbers as well from the survey.
Okay, I think for future, like a grow moment for you is to make sure that you do get those, because when you're presenting this information to us, it's making it seem as though you're talking about the whole community, whereas there's a potential that you mostly connected with mostly gentrifiers, and that's a bit of an issue.
I can say when we were out there, the bulk of the people we spoke to spoke primarily Spanish, if that gives you any indication.
More questions? Do we have a statement from the board about that?
No. No.
I'm sorry?
Can I ask a question?
What labeling?
Like when we say gentrifiers and stuff, it gives the idea that things are just always perverse. Like sometimes, and I get it, I understand there's tension on all sides, and it's something that I'm gonna keep saying till my face turns blue. I think it's something that we just need to be very mindful of, because I know it's definitely tense. Bushwick has a very rich story. So many people on this board have been here before we were even thought of, before we were born. So I think it's very wise for us to be mindful when we're presenting and when we're speaking, of even on their side, just having a little bit of empathy. I'm not saying that they're always right or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not in any way trying to defend them either. However, when we say comments or make statements that seem to just overly generalize as if they only targeted one group to answer and get data from, I don't know if that's necessarily fair. That's all.
I'm making deductive reasoning and also...
Hello, I live 2 stops from this plaza, and I'm there frequently, maybe even daily. I do go to the library, I go to Planet Fitness, and the crowd of people in this plaza is everybody. It's young, it's old, it's Christians, it's they selling flowers, the Mexican, you have a vegetable market, you have food courts. Everybody uses that area. Everybody walks through there. Everybody passes by there, whether they're going into the stores, McDonald's, having coffee, whatever. Everybody uses that plaza.
So are we really going to sit right here and act like gentrification is not?
We know gentrification is here. Gentrification is everywhere. It's not going nowhere.
Hello, we're moving. Hello, out of order. Shh. This is not the forum. Hello. This is not the forum. We're moving. Hello, we're moving right along. We got one more question there, then we're gonna move right along. We understand. Shh.
Be respectable.
Let's be.
It's helped us before.
Okay.
I know, but you're speaking out of turn right now. Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. My question has to do with the construction structures that will have to be added in this area. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what type of not semi-permanent construction will have to be added to the area, and I guess how will the stores in that area be, affected, and how are you guys going to mitigate those effects? Thank you.
So, as I said, the construction itself will be managed by the Department of Design and Construction. As part of that effort, they will establish a field office, a local field office that is staffed and is available to answer any specific questions during the period of construction. But for the project itself, in terms of the actual overall scope, like I said, It's primarily a DEP water main project, so all of the water main which currently exists below Wyckoff Avenue between Cooper Avenue and Flushing Avenue will be replaced, which will require trenching in the roadway to excavate and replace and upgrade that infrastructure. Which no doubt will require some traffic mitigation during that time. I can't speak to the exact details, but that's more than likely. The reconstruction of the plaza itself will be in all DOT standard materials. So the new curbs will be created or built using a DOT standard steel-faced curb. The paving material itself will all be DOT standard concrete paving, akin to any sidewalk that exists in the area. The lighting, as I said, will be lower at a pedestrian scale, again a DOT standard. And then all of the amenities, the bike racks, the benches, and so on, will all be from DOT's toolkit of standard materials. So from an infrastructure perspective, in terms of the above ground, that's really it from DOT. The below grade work will, as I said, is primarily DEP. That will no doubt require some private utility relocation, like the Con Eds, the Verizons of this world, any private company that is occupying some space below the street will no doubt have to move some of their equipment, but DEP is the bulk of it. Typically, for any street reconstruction project of this type, access to stores and residences will be maintained at all times. Temporary accesses should be established where construction is happening sort of right in front of someone's front door, but access will always be provided, and that's the same whether it be a residence or a business.
So two more questions, that's it, we have to close this item. So we have one here and then we have one in the back. Linda, you had your hand raised?
Yes. Now, the way I'm looking at that, Wyckoff Avenue has the train station underneath it. But the way that's looking to me, that's on the side going towards Canarsie, where you're not building no trees on the other side, and that would be the side going towards Manhattan, because the train runs along Wyckoff Avenue. So the way you have it here, one side of the street would be going towards Canarsie, where the trees are, and the other side would be going to Manhattan, where there's no trees. So, why does the one side get trees, and the other side can't have any trees, you're saying?
As I said earlier on, it's all to do with the tunnel depth of the L train. The MTA, so the L train is directly beneath the street at this point. It's the depth of the tunnel that stipulates where you can't plant trees. So we've identified 3 locations where there is sufficient depth to plant those trees. As I've said, we'll take a closer look at that to see if there are other opportunities. But the subway creates a very significant constraint from a tree planting perspective.
Was there a question behind you? Last question.
Okay, so this is going to be a very quick but two-part question. One, once this project is completed, who's going to be responsible for maintaining that entire section? Because I know a lot of times the sidewalks are pretty much the responsibility of the store owners, if there's any cracks or things like that, and even up to a certain amount into the street. But since this is going to be all paved out, who's going to be in charge of maintaining all of it for safety measures and cleanup and all along those lines? That's one. The second one is, I know you have the traffic rerouted, especially going up Palmetto, where now it's only buses that are supposed to be entering and exiting. How does that pertain to livery cabs? Because there's still a lot of regular vehicles, especially taxis, that completely disregard that sign. And even with just buses being allowed and deliveries, you still have to be very careful because they'll just. So what preventive measures will be put in place, especially while that's under construction, to make sure that as we're crossing, we're not even more subjected to more dangers on the road?
So as part of the construction process, DDC and their contractor will be required to produce a plan called which is referred to as MPT. That's the Maintenance and Protection of Traffic. That will stipulate and consider the need for things like crossing guards or temporary construction regulations or other restrictions that will manage traffic and pedestrian safety during construction. Post-construction, to your point about maintenance, DOT's own maintenance contractor will be responsible, as they currently are right now. Their services will continue post-construction, so they'll be responsible for all of the day-to-day sanitation tasks, the sweeping, the bagging of trash, the maintenance of any planters and so on. Cracks in sidewalks, things like that will all be, this is all DOT standard materials, and so DOT would be responsible for those types of repairs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much.
All right, so we're moving down to our last public hearing item. This is agenda item number 4, various subcommittee or steering committee presenters from the Bushwick Community Plan. Is there a mic from DOT? Oh.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ann Guiney, and this is my friend and colleague on the Bushwick Community Plan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Lewis, one of the lawyers from one of your community legal services offices, Brooklyn A, Corp A. Marty Needleman's office, for those of you who might know him better.
And while Greg is setting up the presentation, I'm a member of Community Board 4 and have been participating in the Bushwick Community Plan. And so while he gets that going, I can give you a little bit of the background. So in 2013, the Community Board, a lot of the very folks in this room, responded to a lot of concern in the community. People were really worried about out-of-scale development, rising rents, changes in the neighborhood that people felt like there was no control over what's happening. And so people were coming to the community board, and Ms. Martha Brown, the chair of the Housing and Land Use Committee, got us together and got a lot of conversations going at the subcommittee level. As a group, the community board decided to send a letter to the city saying, we need some help, we need a rezoning, we need something to help us put the brakes on this situation or get some control over it. We need to participate in it. And the two main issues that were in that letter, a copy of which is in this document here, if you're curious about it. This is the Bushwick Community Plan, the finished document, which is available at www.bushwickcommunityplan.org. So the two main issues were out-of-scale development, these mid-block buildings where it's a block of 3- and 4-story buildings, and then all of a sudden there's a 12-story tower smack in the middle, and most likely to be luxury apartments. That was the number one concern, and the number two concern was affordability. Affordability. It's a huge problem, as everybody in this room can attest. So, I believe it was in 2014 when council members Espinal and Reynoso came into office, they said, all right, we're going to put our staff and energy and resources behind this process, and let's get going. So we formed a working group, which became the Bushwick Community Plan.
All right, so for the purposes of tonight, we're going to use this sheet that we've given you all. Everyone has this green printout. Sort of talks about the Bushwick Community Plan from a problem and proposal standpoint. That's probably easier. The board has a PowerPoint presentation. The most important thing is on the sheet, you're going to see the download the complete plan at bushwickcommunityplan.org. On this website, that's where you get all the information. So I think it's just a lot easier for us to sort of frame the core recommendations from this booklet. Sort of allows us to go on and talk about it. And again, on the website is the full plan that has all the details, all the color maps, and also this presentation that we'd have run for you tonight that had a little HDMI issue, so that's fine. So the sort of core pieces, I think, and sort of Ann was talking about, is we can basically bunch the first 4 issues, and this is when you're looking at this green printout. The first 4 problems all are generally, broadly speaking, the solution for it is one of the biggest pieces of thing that people have been talking about, the plan, proposed changes to land use or zoning. And those 4 issues are trying to keep the affordable housing that we have, trying to build more affordable housing, and actually affordable housing, to the question that was asked earlier in another presentation, to stop the increase of expensive or market or luxury housing, and to keeping and creating jobs. I said the land use framework deals with that. Most of the recommendations are, we could sort of capture them very simply. The big land use change to sort of try to accomplish all these things would be to downzone the side streets, to sort of bring it down from what is currently zoned as, which is R6, to bring it down to R4, so as to eliminate the great market incentive to force people out and sort of take buildings that are considered underdeveloped, as the lingo goes with planners, and to sort of use it to build luxury housing. The other idea is the only policy on the books right now to create affordable housing is mandatory inclusionary housing. You've had a gazillion conversations about this. I know the Land Use Subcommittee of CB4 is thinking about a development policy that sort of touches on the fact that MIH is insufficient, but it's the only thing on the books. So the idea was to strategically try to take advantage of the few affordable units that could ever come out of that program. And to take advantage of that, that would be building up along the, they call it the transit corridors in our lingo. Basically, we're talking about Broadway, Myrtle, parts of Wyckoff, to sort of, since that's near a train, to build up, get some MIH units out of there. And then, of course, the M zones, around Flushing Avenue, the manufacturing zones, near the cemetery. The core idea is keep them as is for two reasons. One, if you change it, that creates market pressures. That's another source of forcing people out. But most importantly, jobs. Jobs are still something we care about. We care about that deeply. There's talks about the North Brooklyn development study. If the city could find $1.1 billion for Amazon, surely the city can figure out a way to sort of, oh, well, even worse, can figure out a way to bring back jobs. So the only hope we ever have is if we change the current zoning for manufacturing, any possibility of getting jobs that matter for us is gone forever. So those are sort of the core ideas. And I guess we can now switch it back to Ann and sort of talk about the next series of issues and how they group up in terms of our recommendations.
Sure, and one thing I just want to add is that Bushwick hasn't had its zoning change since 1961, so there are no height limits. So the reason you see those buildings in the middle of the block, they're all of a sudden 10 stories tall, because somebody bought 3 buildings, knocked them down, and went up. So the only height limit is based on the size of your lot, whereas the specific zoning recommendations that are in the Bushwick Community Plan would put in height limits so that no matter how big your lot is, you can't go way, way up. I mean, there's a situation everybody's gonna be staring down or up at, to be more technically accurate, on Putnam and Wyckoff, which is the Food Bazaar parking lot. They can build without asking anybody up to 26 stories. And just, that is with the zoning today. So if we don't do anything, you're gonna, not you, but we, the neighborhood is gonna be facing a lot more of that kind of business. And I don't think anybody really wants to see that and all that comes with that. So as Greg pointed out, the zoning and land use, and that is just one part of the plan. We wanted to look at economic development. We wanted to look at health and community resources. We wanted to look at public space and transportation. So this is not just a zoning plan. This is trying to be a community plan that is addressing how all of these different things are interrelated, how they connect, how public space and parks can help health. Kids have more places to run around, they're gonna be healthier and happier. So try to get all of our desires, our wishes, our demands, our needs, all down on paper as part of a really robust conversation. There were, I believe, 4 years of meetings. Oh, I know there were 4 years of meetings because I was at most of them. And about 70 meetings, 4 or 5 big open houses, a lot of conversation. Not everybody agreed. There were a lot of very strong disagreements, but we sort of all decided we are going to work together, we're going to make our way through this, and came up with 181 recommendations, all of which are in the plan. We would be here till 3 in the morning if we went through all 181 of the recommendations, and I don't think anybody wants that either. So this, one other thing just to say is, since we're only giving top level today, because we don't have that much time, Celeste's probably going to pull the plug on me in about a hot minute, there are going to be more public events and outreach for people who just have questions, who are just learning about it and say, you know what, I want to learn a lot more about this now. Everybody on the community board, you have my email, you have my phone number. call me. Anyone who doesn't have my email and my phone number, let me know, and I will give that to you, and we can, any information you want, we can do it, because there's not going to be enough time today. But
So along those lines, to sort of go through the rest of this grouping-wise, the next big ticket problem that we've identified, or not we, the community did in talking to us, is trying to keep Bushwick looking like Bushwick, which has two parts of it, looking like Bushwick in terms of who lives here, and looking at it, not the so-called middle finger buildings or sort of the tile eyesores that destroy the fact that we have low-rise development. Yes, no Amazon HQ. So along those lines, the big change there is to take advantage of presentation you had earlier, landmarking, to sort of landmark certain blocks that would keep it both looking a certain way and make it harder to try to redevelop. And then as Ann said, it's a community plan. And so there are other things that we've taken a look at, their recommendations on those. The transportation congestion problem. There are recommendations on those that involve reopening subway blocks, sort of looking at more SBS routes, healthcare, the asthma problem in Bushwick, more outpatient centers, quality food. Bushwick is both a food desert, both in terms of the number of supermarkets, but also their affordability. So recommendations talking about creating incentives or requiring individuals to be able to pay with EBT or SNAP or food stamp benefits at new places. Supporting young people and our senior populations. That is a programming piece. There are recommendations that also deal with housing, cleaning and increasing park space. A big one. Recommendations that look to modernizing our parks, providing more facilities. And sort of the last one that I think in many ways is iconic about this being a community plan. It's having a voice, making our mark, and having art too. There was a point earlier made about the demographic reality of the Plaza revision. We live here. We have a history. We have a sense of art. That ought to be expressed. That's sort of a core idea about not just a question about bringing public art to spaces and art programming, but ensuring that the story of Bushwick as Bushwick is currently, the current demographics, those of us who live here, that is told. I think a core idea, sort of Ann talked about, is with all of these pieces, land use has a special process, landmarking has a special process, but a lot of these other things that we're looking for, it's programming based, it's school based. There would always be a political fight associated with that. So in terms of big ticket next steps, we're going around hearing from the community priorities. We want to understand what do people think are the things that go to the front of the list to fight for. And then there's developing strategies to fight. Because again, this is always a political fight. This process came out of the community board recommending, asking the government, the city government, to come over here. So along those lines, it is being teeth-pulling fight, herding cat fight, however you want to call it, to get the government on board. It will continue to be. And one of the big pictures, or the big next points on that fight is, on Monday the 19th, for the first time since the plan was written down, put on paper, published, we're having a meeting to talk about exactly that. Because there are pieces of this plan that require city government wrangling. There are pieces that require the state. The Senate's flipped in New York. It's a new moment. So I think those are the next levels of conversations.
And the public is absolutely 100% welcome. It's a steering committee meeting, so there's some specific stuff on the agenda, but every single person in this room is welcome. And it is at 1349 Gates at a Riseboro building. And please come. If you can't come to that one, we're going to be doing another much informational event. We've done two recently, a small one at Audrey Johnson Life Center on October 20th, and a pretty big one at the Academy of Urban Planning about a month beforehand. A lot of folks were there. It was great. And those events are about prioritizing those priorities. So out of 181, which ones do you think are the most important? Which do you think we should be fighting the loudest for, the noisiest for, and aligning? As Greg said, we just got to keep organizing. This process is not ended. This is just a punctuation point. We've got to organize, we got to work together, and we got to fight for it, because we're not going to get it without a fight. Thank you. 6 p.m., Monday, 1349 Gates. Gates and Wilson. And again, bushwickcommunityplan.org, you can find the whole thing. Any questions you have right now, but if you think of one tomorrow, either the council members, staff is happy to answer questions. I'm happy to answer questions. Greg is probably busy, but happy to answer questions.
One quick question. That was great. Thank you, guys. Just for the sake of Bushwick and keeping it authentic, for the sake of translation, do we have that?
Yes, there is a Spanish version of this that we didn't bring tonight, but it does exist. It's on the website, Spanish version of the plan. If you identify any other language that we're missing, I know that French Creole, if you think Bengali, if we need that in that, we can generate those translations. But sort of based on the authenticity piece about Bushwick, Spanish was the other language that was identified. It exists in that version.
Got a question behind the camera over there. Question.
With the mic.
Thank you. The recommendations you have, somebody listens to them? Because I have here some information, like says, keeping housing affordable. We know we don't have affordable housing in Bushwick anymore, because very expensive properties. Now, building more affordable, they're still building properties which are very expensive. I don't know how you're going to stop it, because they're still making these buildings. There are 2 family houses, now it's 4 family houses. I don't know how they got the permits to get all of that, to make those changes. And how much they cost, because the properties goes from $2,000 to $3,000 rent. So there's no affordable housing. So, and also they say stopping increase expensive housing. There are very expensive housing. And they pay the tenants to leave the properties.
It's
I mean, they're pushing it out. So we here just thinking this is scandalous, nothing happened. And we're still losing, and they also say creating jobs. You know, this kind of business, I have a business 30 years in Wyckoff Avenue. Most of the people that were next to me, they're leaving because there are other business coming in. Now we have a lot of bars in there. And what happened to our clients? What happened to the people that are there? So we're losing this battle, and I think we're losing here. The gentleman said, and he requested why 95% of people gave information about their property, about this park. We get a lot of trash mail from the, for the politicians. Why don't we get mail from this just to find out and everybody think what we're going to do about it? Because we cannot just come here. It's the first time I heard, and it's the first time I'm here.
Oh, I'm very glad you're here to start with. Thank you for coming. So yeah, welcome and thank you. And I think all of the issues you raise are 100% ones that we have all been worried about and working towards fighting. So this outline, just to keep it short, we wanted to do big picture stuff. There's some specific technical recommendations in this that try to get to that. I mean, the fact of the matter is too, like, we can't completely change market forces. Capitalism is the system we're under at the moment. There are regulations and that we are trying to say, how can we use the system and how can we change the system so that we can at least mitigate and modify and tamp that down and get rid of the incentives. So right now this zoning, which has no height limit, it's R6, there's are big incentives to buy 3 buildings in a row, knock them down, build a luxury tower. So if there's a height limit, we can't stop somebody from trying to cash out in their building, but we can at least make it so they can't cash out and put up a 12-story luxury tower. So you got to use the tools you have, figure out what are the holes in your toolkit, and demand better tools from the city, from the state, and just be as creative as we possibly can. Greg can add more to that.
So, and I would sort of add along Anne's line that there are some, everything you are talked about is something we identified, and there are some specific ideas in the plan to sort of address those specific points, including, we're losing a lot of affordable housing. We know, and I think by the core of everything is preservation, right? Because the rent stabilized apartment you have is the cheapest apartment you're ever gonna have, right? We can't build, or we're not gonna build, I can't say we can't, anything cheaper. So there are a lot of things that are focused on trying to keep, the biggest thing we can do for affordable housing is keeping what we have, because that's more affordable than what we can build. We talked about MIH, and we've had, folks have always talked about how very poor it is as a way of trying to actually build housing for affordable people. So yeah, there are specifics on that, for
I don't know if
example.
y'all heard his question, but he was asking specifically about the language and not the content. Like, why is this language being used when it's actually not a reality? Right? When he's specifically talking about, when you were specifically talking about the fact that the rent is, let's say, keep housing affordable. He asked you about that in specific, right? That's that. Like, why are you saying keep housing affordable when it's actually not something that is a possibility or makes sense? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think we're saying, at least for the keep housing affordable piece,
Yeah.
we are talking about keeping affordable $600-700 rent stabilized units. That's the idea beneath this proposal. If you're asking about like the building affordable housing, and I know the MIH thing, sure, you'll see in our plan, it's quoted, it's sometimes referred to as MIH housing because there was a great sensitivity to the fact that affordable housing or MIH housing may not be affordable for many people. But I think as far as the keeping, we really do mean the rent stabilized, low rent housing that people have, that has to be kept because that is the truly affordable housing, and you will almost never have more affordable housing built, at least in this political climate.
And adding to that point is because we're trying to preserve the existing affordable housing that's out there, we have to get rid of the incentives to tear that housing down, to make it a lot less attractive to buy up a bunch of buildings and gut renovate them and add on to them. So you gotta, I mean, as I see it, and as a lot of the folks who participated in the process, because again, as we see it, you gotta attack the problem from 49 different angles because there's no one perfect solution. And just in the sort of a little bit of the language is a lot of this language came directly from people who participated in the process. We're not some like cabal behind a door or anything like that. Tried to be as open as possible. And sir, I'm sorry that this is the first time you heard about it. We tried really hard to do outreach. We're imperfect people, but really have tried to go at it through the community board, through different organizations in the neighborhood. It's, barring knocking on every single door, I don't know what we could have done, but we did try, not hard enough. We want to be as open. The process is not over, so there is still 100%. There's opportunity to participate and join and have your voice heard, and I really do hope that you will join alongside and, add your voice to this.
I'd like to make a comment. I've been in Bushwick since 1955. I saw this neighborhood go from vacant lots. I'm just going to give you a little history, those of you who arrived here later. The neighborhood was beautiful. Italians, Irish, Germans. Now, after 1960, the drugs came in and the crime came in. The neighbors, all you see where Ridgewood Bushwick is, Hope Gardens, P60s, the one or two, the townhouses, that was all vacant land. From the fires, from Myrtle down to the cemetery on Central Avenue, you could look and see there was hardly any buildings. So, our main concern here is we've not only seen our neighborhood change, nobody looked at Bushwick. Bushwick was crime-ridden, drug-ridden, fires, crack, murders was murder, what they say, you'd get bushwhacked in Bushwick. Now everybody wants to be here. So once they moved out of Williamsburg, Bushwick was the next spot. Also, your neighbors have sold their houses to these developers, and they've all moved on. I mean, where they've gone, I have no idea. But once these developers all get that property, that's it. You cannot stop the real estate market in this town. The only thing we can do is try to come up with a reasonable plan that we can limit the heights of these buildings. And that's my contention. You don't have to follow my opinion, but we have to try to save this neighborhood because it is almost gone. The developers are in here like roaches. They're all over the place. You see them every day. Yogi Bear sold that property that they gave them. on Evergreen and Grove, they sold that property to the developers. Cornelia and Evergreen, developers. Where that church was on, putting them in Evergreen, developers. Harmon Street and Evergreen, all of our property and our neighbors are gone. So if you want to have your voice before it's all lost, you have to try to come to some of these meetings and get your ideas across. And thank you very much for listening.
Question, really over there.
Your hand was up for a minute.
Yeah, your hand was up first. You got a mic,
So, listening to what everyone has to say and understanding from your point of view, and I'm usually very hardcore on developers only when they take tax credit. If their own money, they're doing what they want to do, I leave people alone because like I said, it's capitalist. You do what you got to do. It's your own money, but my thing is, I see sometimes where there is a defeatist attitude, and I've heard it already within the last few sentences, is that developers. I think the last time that I was here, I talked about EDC having funds for you to go ahead and start doing development within your own communities. There's the dollar house buying program. There's other incentives that you can actually take back. So instead of being like, all right, so this developer is going to come in and I want to work with him to give me affordable housing, start building your own damn affordable housing. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be that blunt about it, but as much as I want to hold developers accountable, I have to hold the people in the community accountable. If there are programs out there for you to buy back your neighborhood, educate yourself and start buying back your neighborhood. Come to the meetings, start meeting with these people, go to the community board, find exactly what resources that Celeste has there, find out what resources that we all have as a community here, all of us, and there's some very, very intelligent people on this community board that can help you move towards those steps. But I don't want to get into a dialogue where I'm always blaming developers, or always expecting developers to come in and give me something when I know the resources where I can go. If I see a brownstone, if I see an abandoned building, I know how to go on Acris, look it up, see who owned it, see if the taxes are there, if I can go down to the water department, and I can do those steps to get that building, and then offer affordable housing within my own community and become the landlord. So, as much as we want to hold them accountable, we have to hold ourselves accountable, and that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
So, that was amazing, thank you. And that was honestly like the first time that I've heard a comment in this whole dialogue. I've been listening, this is not my first meeting, I've been listening to this conversation for a while. That's the first time I've heard a solution outside of, well, we gotta do this because that's our only option. The scare tactics, the fear mongering, I didn't even know those options existed. And it's not because I wasn't trying, it's not because I wasn't asking. Nope, it's anytime I ask any questions, this was put in my face. This is your option or get kicked out. That's not right, that's not right. And so, thank you, I just wanted to address that. But I brought in 4 points that I just wanted to bring up, just something that, for me, going through this plan, looking through it, it just doesn't add up. You mentioned before, talking about, we gotta look at our toolkit, see where we're missing stuff. This is where I see that we're missing stuff. One, I feel like this plan is being misrepresented. I feel it may be intentionally, but I'm gonna give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's not intentionally. It's being misrepresented. Rezonings have to do with density, and this is being proposed as something that rezonings address gentrification. They address density, and density is about shifting populations around to alleviate populations in certain areas. It has nothing to do with gentrification, outside of the fact that when you do allow taller buildings in certain areas as kind of your concession to the city, to developers, to whoever we want to blame for this, when you give them taller areas to build, then you're asking them to create these large towers. You're asking them and inviting them to come into the neighborhood and do that. And we're also acting like that you can't just gut the 3-story buildings and put in two new apartments and charge $5,000 a month in rent for that, which you can do, and that has nothing to do with zoning. So we keep saying, oh, the rezoning, we're gonna downsize. That's still not addressing the underlying problem that the development can happen either way. My downstairs neighbors were offered $10,000 to get out because he wants to combine the 2 downstairs apartments and send that rent up. And which brings me to my next point. We keep talking about a downzoning.
Never in the history of New York City has there been a downzoning in a community of color or a poor community. Never in the history of New York City. So we're pushing this as, oh, the Bushwick Community Plan is promising a downzoning of residential blocks to prevent large developments, but that's never happened before. And the council members thus far, I mean, where are they? First of all, if we're having this important dialogue that the community is supposed to be talking about, where's SB now? Where's Reynoso? I don't see them. So let's talk about that. And anytime you bring it up to them, they're really vague and they're lukewarm at best about committing to ensuring that we get a downzoning. And if something else is, if developer or DCP tries to say something else, they have refused to commit to the fact that they'll walk away. They refuse to commit to that. So I'm just not sold on it. Third point, I only got 4 points, so everybody looking at me all stressed out. So there's no guarantee that this plan
No, we
is
only
gonna
have
be,
enough time for everyone. That's
I'm
why.
going
would
as
you
fast as I can. 2 more points.
Okay, you got one more point, and it's a question. It's a question.
I'm gonna go through it. So there's no guarantee that this plan will be passed as is. There's no guarantee of that. And people keep saying that these recommendations, I want everybody in this room to understand that the recommendations in this Bushwick Community Plan are not legally binding. They are recommendations. Recommendations.
Just like we are on the
recommending
board.
to the city. And so once the ULURP process begins, it's out of the community's hands. They can literally say, "Oh, that's cute." And when you look the people who are on the steering committee that were in that meeting in February, it keeps getting brought up, but it's relevant, so I'm gonna bring it up. When DCP brought in their version of the plan based off the recommendations that they already had, the one thing that Bushwick said, no M to R rezoning, no manufacturing to residential. That's the one thing we will not give you. What did they do? They came in, M to R rezoning. And when people were justifiably angry, the director of Brooklyn Department of City Planning said, our intention is to preserve the character of the buildings, not the people in them. So the city, the director of DCP, which is where this plan is supposed to go, he already told us how he feels about the Bushwick Community Plan. He already told us how he felt about it. So how are we gonna expect that this verbatim as is gonna be passed? Last point, I promise. Affordable housing. Affordable for who? We keep talking about this, and we keep saying about MIH and all this stuff. Look, I went to nyc.gov. I did my research, okay? There is only 10% is the required minimum amount of affordable housing units with options for 20%. When have you ever known a developer to do the right thing and to pick the better option for the community? When have you ever known a developer to do that? And then, secondly, affordable, so let's talk about AMI. AMI for a single person is $70,000 a year, over $70,000 a year. So 40% of that, or 30% of that, we're talking about $27,000, $30,000 for one person. There's families in Bushwick living, 4 or 5 people, families living off $30,000 a year. And that's for a single person we're talking about. So we have to look deeper into this. People talking about affordable. Affordable for who is my question. 40% of Bushwick residents live below the federal poverty line. So that should tell you something right now. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would say the key response is Monday, October 19th, 6 p.m., 1349 Gates Avenue. So November, sorry. November 19th, 6 p.m. at 1349 Gates, because the most important part of this entire process, that is the core part, the part that is proud and that's the most relevant, is this discussion, this plan arose out of first this community board and other people saying, we want the government here in Bushwick. It will always be a fight or struggle, because ultimately, if we're talking about truth, income is the #1 issue in this community and preservation affordability. You don't have a job, the rent can be $5, you can't afford it. So along with the income piece, that is a core organizing idea, because again, we are all meeting today after the city of New York just found $3 billion That you're hearing they have no money for public housing, you're hearing they have no money for this or that to create, so that's what I'm trying to say. And that is at the core in organizing political questions. So that's why to all of these discussions, the most important part about this plan, Monday, November 19, 6 p.m., 1349 Gates, let's continue the conversation.
All right.
However, I would like
this
to address a few of the points, and I'm so glad that you raised them. Number one, zoning can't control things like the cost of the rent and somebody combining 4 units into one. Like, zoning doesn't have that power. Zoning is a blunt instrument. And so when we say that we want to expand our toolkit, figure out what are the holes in it, what zoning can't do, and we know zoning can't do a lot of things. So say, are there other ways that we can pressure the city? Are there things the city can't do, like the AMI numbers, which all come from the feds? That's HUD stuff, housing and urban development. Those numbers, and say, all right, fine, if the feds are setting the area median income numbers, and that is because that's the primary way of funding affordable housing around here, then we have to figure out to supplement that, to lower it, so that a family of 4 who is making $25,000 a year in Bushwick can still afford to live here. We have to figure out what are all the different tools, pressures, demands, creativity that we can apply to exactly those problems. So that's number one. Number two, and I'm not going to be able to address all of your points, but the other one I really want to address is that if the city had said, we're going to do this and we're coming to you, then it probably would get guaranteed to go sailing straight through ULURP. This was not ever a city plan. This was us. This was people in Bushwick asking for it, and so therefore saying, but wait, hang on, let me finish.
Hello.
Let me finish.
Hello.
Let me finish.
Hello.
So,
hello.
No, can I just finish? Okay. So because of that, we got together and created this that we want, and we're now going to fight for it. We've never, ever, ever promised that this is going to go sailing through ULURP. We never guaranteed anything. We want every single one of the 181, and we will fight for every single one of the 181 recommendations. But I would be a liar, and we would all be liars if we said, oh, it's going to sail on through. We are going to fight for every single one, though.
All right. Thank you. Before we end this topic, I have been in the forefront since it started. 4 years in the forefront since it started. I was the first person before it even started to make a recommendation to the executive board that this process don't be carried through. It was dead on arrival. I was the only one. Now that we finished it 4 years, 4 years, we're going on our 5th year. Now everybody's going. Guess what? I want everyone here to think in their mind and say, if we don't do nothing, what happens? Guess what happens? The house is going to come anyway, right? Our people going to sell our own houses, right? All right. So if we do something and we make a plan, we don't know if it might be affordable. You're 100% right. My grandmother's 103. May 1st, she'll be 103 in Bushwick. You know what she get at her retirement? $600. You know how much is the rent? $9. You know where the rest of the money comes? Me and my wife. For her to continue keep living there. So you talk about living when you have an old lady that's 103 there trying to keep living in Bushwick. So in order for us to get what we want, we have to fight and keep this process going together. Let's stop. Because the only people that can't afford here, you're right, it's gentrification. Why? Because they were pushed out from the place that they couldn't afford and they came here. Just like if you were pushed out from over there and you can live here. So let's be realistic. And let's keep going and something positive. My point is, we got to end this, and we got to end this now. Before they're coming, and they're here, and they're opening, and more people are going to be pushed away. So we need to work the right way and cut these corners. We know all what's going on. I know what's going on. I'm on a broke income. I know what's going on. My wife don't make that kind of money. I've been in Bushwick a long time. I'm 57. Imagine how long my family been here. So we need to make sure that we keep our seniors here. The people that made this place. Did you see now? All of you, did you see now? You got 4 years on this board. The faces are going to change. Wake up. The faces are going to change. Because we no longer can be here. I can't be here representing you because you're going to have wrong other people here. So be realistic and wake up. And let's start getting together. That's all I want to tell you. Thank you. Next, we're moving over on road. Hello? We're moving over on. This is there. Hello. We're closing. We're closing. Wait.
Testimony that I hope everyone can address. Just have two really quick things to say. We're all here for the same reason. We're just clearly talking past each other. Greg, I substantially disagree with the reality being that people are being displaced because they can't afford it. People are being displaced because racism still exists here. Through the job that we do together, without going into too much detail, we've had clients who can afford to live in Bushwick who just spent months not finding an apartment because the developers, the private landlords who are here just don't want immigrant people, undocumented people, people with larger families here. So let's be real about that, and let's try to avoid shaming each other for whatever we do or do not earn. The second thing, if through our own admission, rezonings are very, very blunt tools, I don't see the need to use it again. I understand what's happening. I understand you were here 4 years earlier, Camacho, and you said not to do this. I want to make it clear, I don't think the call is not to do anything. I think the call is just not to use the rezoning tool. I just want to point very quickly to historical precedent for this, and then I'll let it go. A lot of what's happening here in Bushwick is a result of a mistake to engage in the rezoning process that happened in Williamsburg. The displacement pressures that occurred there pushed speculation onto Bushwick. So, and it surprises me that many of the same groups that were involved in that are also involved in this rezoning process again. It's almost as if we didn't learn our lesson. Our plan isn't that unique. The Williamsburg waterfront rezoning also called for higher density on the waterfront and height and density restrictions on their low-income, on their rent-stabilized housing and their lower-zoned housing. It didn't work. So even if we get what we want here, I don't see it working again. That's my grave concern about going through with at least just the rezoning part of it. There's a lot of work that's been done here, and I do want to say the job, maybe on my end at least, I'll speak very personally, was not done very well in distinguishing what I was trying to say. I think many of the recommendations are coming in the other subcommittees are very valid. I don't feel that way about the rezoning recommendation. I think there are things we can accomplish with the other subcommittee recommendations that don't rely on the zoning. I know it will be a very hard fight. I just want to avoid continuing through this process when we have not agreed on the zoning. I know there's a symbolic vote coming up in January. I would even like to avoid that because a symbolic vote will be used against us. I know some of us have work to do outside of here to make it clear to Department of City Planning that they can't come in here and raid us. There's commitments to do that. But that's all I'm going to say on that. If it doesn't make sense to go through the process, doesn't make sense to use a rezoning, let's not do it, and let's not make the same mistake we've made before in other communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next. First roll call.
We're going to run through the roll call, and then we'll invite board members first to get up for food, but please wait for the roll call before you move. Grace Aites. Joanna Bennett.
Here.
L.A. Blacksmith. Joshua Brown. Martha Brown.
Present.
Robert Camacho. Felix Ceballos. Gardia Caphart. Melissa Carrera. Louisa Chan. Sophia Chowdhury. Alvina Davis is excused. Julie Dent. Denise Reyna Dolan. Ernest Estime. Carlos Feliciano. Victoria Fernandez is excused. Freddie Fowler. Igaldi Gomez. Christopher Graham. Ann Guiney. Jose Guzman. Michelle Hilliard. Barbara Jackson. Cheryl Jones is excused. Virgie Jones is excused. Huebe Cote. Nancy Liao is excused. Austin Martinez. Mary McClellan. Desmond Monroe. Charlene Moore. Zuma Novoa. Cirilo Nunez. Luisa Jose Alea. Eliseo Ruiz. Isaiah Polite. Gladys Bulia. Eva Rodriguez. Raul Rubio. Julio Salinas. John Schieffer. Bernadina Schell. Barbara Smith is excused. Dustin Sonborn. Annette Spellin. Jerry Valentine. James Wiseman. Here. Oldolph Wright is excused. Anyone who has not signed in, please sign in.
You look like me.
Oh, fantastic.
All right, we're going to give you 5 minutes to get your food and get on the table.
Okay, everyone, if you can quietly get your food, we're going to resume the meeting. Attention. We're moving on with our meeting now. We did have a quorum, 25 board members are present, so thank you to all of our board members that are here. We know it's very cold, so we're going to try to wrap this up very quick. We're moving down to agenda item number 2, acceptance of the agenda. Is there a motion from the board? Motion from Drosser Brown. Is there a second? Second by Charlene Moore. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. Moving down to agenda item number 3, acceptance of the previous meeting minutes. Is there a motion from the board? I need a name? Okay, motion by Mary McClellan. Is there a second? Name? Barbara Jackson, second. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. Agenda item number 4, the chairperson's report.
As you know, all is informational. I went to a lot of meetings, man. And I just want to thank Joshua Brown, the vice president, for going to the executive board meeting. He was here. I was on vacation for 2 weeks, and he conducted all the meetings. I guess he'll tell you what went on, or he wants to speak about what's going on and what happened real quick. Just a
Good evening, everyone. Just to give you a quick update, just in regards to what we were speaking about today, I attended a meeting this past Tuesday down at Borough Hall, and New York City is going to be revising their charter. So this is a big issue that will affect us next year. So as if you don't know, New York Charter dictates a lot of policies that affect our lives day to day, and this is the first modification of the charter in several years. So just as a point of information, we ask you to please look up the New York City Charter program, as there will be a revision coming to it. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, moving down to the introduction of elected officials. Can you please make a line and introduce yourselves or representatives?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Boris Santos, representing the Office of Councilmember Antonio Reynoso. You can find us at 244 Union Avenue. Phone number is 718-963-3141. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paula Melendez. I'm here on behalf of Assemblywoman Marissa Davila. We're located at 249 Wilson. Our telephone number is 718-443-1205. Thank you.
Please, if you guys want to talk, please go out. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Anayeli Gomez from the New York City Comptroller's Office. We're located at 1 Center Street in Manhattan, Lower Manhattan, and my direct number is 212-669-3568. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are any agency or community-based organization representatives, this is your opportunity to introduce yourselves as well. Okay, seeing none, I'm moving down to the following item, which is the 83rd Precinct. Do we have a representative? We have our captain here with us this evening. Everybody give Captain Dominguez a round of applause.
Good evening, I'm Captain Dominguez for the 83 Precinct. I'm happy to be here. I'm here with my NCO sergeant and a few of my NCOs. I want you to know that, as always, crime stats. We long crime. We got the 28-day period, which is the month. We are down 23% on crime overall. And if we go year to date, we're down 4% on crime. If anybody has any specific questions about the numbers or anything else police related, just let me know. Any questions? Anything?
Okay.
I'm sorry? Yes, we do. Unfortunately, last week, most likely you saw in the news, we have a murder, 2 of them, but it was a domestic homicide / suicide, and it happened on Manhattan. So it has the victim And the perpetrator, they don't even live in the prison. They came from another prison. I don't know, I cannot be more specific, but you have any other questions?
Any other question over here?
Have our monthly meetings. Are they broken down by age as well? Can we always see like how many youthful offenders have been arrested or had any interactions with police?
I don't know. When I bring the statistics, it's based on crime.
But not on minors, like how many minors?
No,
are
but
anything like that?
if you want those, you come down to the prison, I can look into and I'll let you know. But I also want you to know that it was a change on the law also where anybody under 17 years old is also considered a minor now. So whereas before you were 16 and you commit a crime, you will be considered an adult, they change it. So now if you are 16 and you commit a crime, you're still considered a juvenile. And going next year, they're going to also expand it to 17 years old.
Well,
So
the reason why I asked is because there was a report about like how many juvenile offenders are actually locked up with actually adult grown offenders and how that disparity without having the right mental health or social services or education with those systems creates a bigger problem. So that's kind of what in Bushwick, I just want to know like how many teens were then forced into that down system.
So it's changing, like I say, now you are 16, next year 17, you're still considered a juvenile and you are not together with the adults. It's different and independent on the crime. We can just turn around and give it right back to the parents. So it has to do with what kind of crimes you commit. Right? Yes, sir.
Speaking of youth, I know, I just wanted to see if you could probably share some words on this. I think the NYPD sent an email out in regards of the new marijuana laws that passed. If you don't mind sharing that with community members and stuff, or what to expect, how that works.
Okay, what they come out with is that basically there is a new law where before we were mandated to arrest somebody if we find them using marijuana, like on the open.
Like publicly or something?
Yeah, public,
like
yes. But now it changed where we have to give you a summons. Unless it's only a very few occasions we're most arrests, but that has to do with what kind of history, criminal history you have. And also we can arrest depending on different criteria, but it's only like a minimum occasions that we gonna go ahead and arrest somebody. So for the most part, it's gonna be summonses for now on.
And one more question, sorry.
Yes, that's fine.
Bike IDs, I know that was something that was like spoken about and it's kind of been tabled for a while. Just wanted to see if it's maybe something that's on the horizon for 2019.
What do you mean?
Bike IDs. So for instance, a lot of community board members have mentioned that there's a lot of people who might bike illegally throughout the streets. In some ways could cause accidents.
I know, but I haven't heard anything about bicycle IDs. What I know is that any bicyclist or anybody operating a bicycle has to obey the rules and regulations of a regular car, other than having a driver license or insurance or registration. But other than that, they need to follow the rules and regulations of the roads as a regular vehicle.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
We have a brand new business here in Bushwick called Revel. Could
Yeah.
you just speak on the legality of the e-bikes and where you stand on it?
Yeah, but the Revel, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just with e-bikes and how it affects commerce here in Bushwick,
Oh,
and
yeah.
if those laws are being enforced.
The difference with Revel, they are no e-bikes, they are actually scooters. So they are like the only scooters, even though they electric, they are like legal scooters. So that's like a regular motorcycle. So that business, those scooters are legal. So they are registered, they have insurance, so they are considered like a regular vehicle. The only difference is because they are the speed that they can go, which is about 30 miles per hour. They have like a governor that you cannot go above 30 miles per hour. You don't need a motorcycle license to operate those. So just your regular driver license. And that's a pilot program that's private enterprise where they have about 60 of those scooters parked on Bushwick and Williamsburg, and people can rent them as just like a city bike, but they are not docked. They just park on the street. That's what I know about those rebels. About e-bikes, it's also new rules that come out with the e-bikes, and it has to do with the only legal e-bikes are the ones that have actual pedals that you need to pedal in order to operate them, but they're going to help you moving along, and it has to do with the engine. Even though it's electric, it has to have, I believe that's 50 watts. I had to look into it, and but they had to have pedals, and there are some other rules that they need to follow with those e-bikes. Okay, any other questions?
All right, thank you. And just a note, Revel is coming to the next Transportation Committee meeting in December. So for more information, you can speak to me after the meeting. And then additionally, before we wrap up with this portion, can the other officers that are here from the 83rd Precinct introduce themselves so we know who's
definitely.
with us?
Come in, guys. Come in, everybody. They want to know you. Pay attention. Depending where you live or you have business here in Bushwick, they are the ones who are going to be available for you to call. They're going to provide a cell phone, job cell phone. They're going to provide their email, and you can call them direct if you have any issues other than emergencies, all right?
Good evening. I'm Officer Romero. I cover Sector Adam, which is Jefferson Avenue to Eastern Parkway, Broadway to Wyckoff. My phone number is 929-334-6997. We'll be around if you need to get in contact with me. Just reach out. My partner's on vacation.
Okay.
His name is Daniel Atherley. You meet him the next time, I guess. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Officer Anamora. This is my partner, Alex McNeil. We cover Sector David. I don't think, well, we have some supporters there. Come on, clap. Come on. We just had actually our Build the Block meeting yesterday. You guys, we cover from Flushing Avenue to Grove Street, and we cover from Cypress to Wilson Avenue. If you guys have any questions, my number is 917-373-2582. This is my partners.
My number is 917-328-3930. My partner also speaks Spanish in case anyone else in here needs that. I'm so-so with it, but she's your lady if so. Thank you guys very much.
So we're going to call you the partner. You didn't tell us your name, partner.
Oh, she told me my name. My name is Officer Alexander Mignon, but you could just call me Alex. Keep it easy. We don't got to go all proper and everything. But thank you, everyone.
How you doing? My name's Officer Legato. I'm one of the NCOs for Sector Charlie.
Sector that is, right?
Sector Charlie is Himrah to Flushing from Broadway to Wilson. We want to also announce that if anyone lives in that sector, we're having our next Build-A-Block meeting on December 5th at the DeKalb Library on Bushwick Avenue. What? So anyone that lives in that area is welcome to come. My phone number is 917-514-7641. Oh, the area. We're from Broadway to Wilson, from Harmon to Flushing. So we cover Myrtle and Broadway and that surrounding area.
I'm Officer Nelson for NCO Charlie. Thank you. My cell phone number is 929-364-7394.
Good evening. My name's Officer Irazo. I cover all of the Hope Garden developments within Bushwick. Pretty much, my partner, he's actually on vacation, so I'm here alone today. My number is 929-334-7810.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sergeant Serrano. I am the neighborhood coordinating sergeant for all these fine officers here. Okay. Just to let you guys know, I have 25 years born and bred in Bushwick, okay? So I have a huge love for Bushwick, and that's why I'm still here. And this NCO program is great because it basically gives you 2 officers that you will know on an individual basis that whatever situation in which you have that is not a crime, something minor, you can reach out to me or you can reach out to them, and we will try our very best to handle it, you know, as quickly and safely as possible, okay? Oh, I'll give you my number. Ready? 917-484-0698. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so everybody should know about the NCO program. It's like having your own set of police officers. Yes, sir. That's Sector Adam. Right there. Wait. Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, just speak to him on the side, and he will. Do you have any issues to speak to him?
Oh, I got thousands.
I know. We know Schaefer and Wilson. All right. Anything else?
All right. That is it. Thank you for being
right,
here,
thank you.
everyone. All right. So moving down to agenda item number 5, that's the district manager's report. My report, I will keep it brief. Welcome to everyone from the staff of CB4 and myself. I hope you've been enjoying the change in season thus far. Customarily, during this time of year, we often reflect and think about how to give back. I encourage everyone to extend this spirit to a neighbor or someone going through difficult times. As Bushwick continues to grow and experience change, we all have a shared responsibility in shaping a stronger and understanding community. A big thank you to all of the organizations and community groups that continue to provide resources and support within Bushwick. I'm also happy to report that our annual statement of community district needs and budget requests were submitted to the Department of City Planning on time. For those interested in better understanding the role of the community board in the budget process, please speak to me after the meeting or contact the board's office at 718-628-8400 or bk04@cb.nyc.gov. Now that the Budget Committee has wrapped up for the year, we have scheduled the Ad Hoc Bylaw Revision Committee to meet on Tuesday, December 4th at 6 p.m. in the board's office. That's Tuesday, December 4th at 6 p.m. in the board's office. All board members, especially those familiar with governance and bylaw structuring, are asked to attend. A report with all of the recommendations will be drafted for review at a future full board meeting. Below are the meetings and events that I attended in the past month that you can read at your leisure. I encourage you to read through them all, and there are also additional announcements and flyers at the back of my report. That concludes my report for this evening. Thank you. Okay. Moving down to committee reports, we have the District Office Committee.
If you got a report, everything is informational on here. We have recommendations on the back. And it's 1 and 2. The executive board officer of the board served 2-year terms in their position. And then number 2 is the executive board and meeting including only executive board meetings. Those are 2 recommendations. But since they didn't have a quorum, nothing could have come out of it. So I brought it as informational. But those one of the recommendations. Hopefully on December 4th, on Tuesday, we'll get people there in the quorum and we'll sit down and revision our bylaws. As you know, they're terming us out, 2020, 4-year terms, 2 4-year terms if you get a second year for 4 years. So 4, 2 years, 4 terms, meaning 8. Yeah, but you might not get the 8. You might not get the 4. So that's. I'm saying we in general. We might not get the 4. So it all depends on what goes on that they put on there or they don't. I don't know if they originally gonna get us out or we just can't. I really don't know what's gonna happen. So we need to all get together and take care of the bylaws and let's do what we have to do to keep moving along. Thank you.
Moving on to our Health, Hospitals, Human Service, Senior Citizens, and Veterans Committee. Our chairperson, Mary McClellan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary McClellan, and we had a meeting. Now, I'm not going to talk too long because you talk long, nobody don't remember what you said in the first place. we can just what we heard tonight here. People talk so long, you don't know what they said. Okay, now, but some things are important. The weather is changing now, and you can tell by now we're in a senior citizen, and it's like they turned on the air conditioner. So we're gonna make it brief and get out quickly. Now, and that was one of the main things I was talking about in the meeting, because the people in these apartment buildings, they don't have heat. And if you don't have heat and hot water, when it was not so cold before, we had our meeting in October. Now, you know they're freezing, okay, with no heat and hot water, and this is not good. We need to write a letter to anybody that will take the letter or email it. We don't write too much anymore, and let them know, because you know, today them, tomorrow us. Now, also, I am a firm believer in the flu shot. Now, I contacted Woodhall today to see if they are giving out free flu shots, because some people get it for free, but then if you have a family of 4, that costs a lot of money if you go and pay those people. As soon as I get the date, I will give the date to Celeste, and she can blast it out so everybody will know, because you go there, you do not have to go and be running all over the place. You go to a certain area, you get your flu shot and leave. I didn't get mine yet for this year, but I will be getting it, and I have not paid, and I'm a senior citizen. I have never paid for a flu shot. I didn't get the flu either. So this is one thing that's very, very important, okay? Now, we had a meeting with people that came from Riceboro, because the nutrition is a very, very important aspect. Now, I don't have a copy of it on here, but if you want to, you can contact the office and get a copy of the flyer and the minutes. But they, at same place where they're having this meeting on the Bushwick plan, yeah, at 14, what is it, 1349 Gates Avenue. I went to a meeting there, and they have an area that they grow fruits and vegetables there, and they give them to the community. When they're available, we just have to know and go by there and get them, because you know, you can go up to the farm market and pay $2 a pound for tomatoes, or you can go to Food Bazaar and pay 99. And that's exactly what I tell them. You know where I'm going, okay? But it was a very good meeting. It's informational, but they have all these fresh vegetables growing out there. They had cover over them because, you know, it gets cool in the night. So that concludes my presentation, because like I say, I don't talk long. We got to go home. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Moving down to housing and land use. Vice Chairperson Joshua Brown.
Good afternoon. Good evening. See, before just an overview, I won't go through the full report because we'll be voting on one of the items tonight. But just to reinforce, housing is one of our most important issues here in Bushwick. We encourage everyone to remain vigilant, remain educated, and remain in the know as to how the process works. Just know that CB4, we are advisory, and we don't make or dictate city planning, but our voices can influence and shape that. So with that, it was just a rehash of old business. We don't have any new business, but we will be voting on one agenda tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on down to the last committee report, Public Safety, Vice Chairperson Jerry Valentin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jerry Valentin, Vice Chair of the Public Safety Committee. We did meet on Wednesday, November 7th. Normally it is the first Tuesday of the month, but because of Election Day, we held it last week on the 7th at 4:30. As it relates to New York State liquor applications, there were 3 applications that came forward to the committee. All 3 were present, and the committee recommendations did approve with no, of course, it's not a requirement, but we do ask that no sales of alcohol are served past 12 a.m. on Sundays. That's just a recommendation that the committee always has for all the businesses. Those were Aquino's, 429 Central Avenue, Killer Tie, 207A Star Street, and Brooklyn Cider House, 1100 Flushing Avenue. They actually did bring cider for us to try. It was very, very good for those that were present. We had a good time. And that like really stood out of everything. It was really good. Exactly. So they did. We did invite them to the community board meeting so that they can come, but they were not able to come. They did email Celeste, and they did inform that they were not able to come because they had another meeting. So they did make efforts to be here tonight. In addition to that, and lastly, we had De Buren Inc., 1223 Broadway. This was a sidewalk cafe application that did come before the committee. And of course, we did approve, of course, with the recommendation of no alcohol sales past 12 a.m. So other than that, it's very short. That was a Public Safety Committee meeting for all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so moving down to agenda item number 7, this is recommendations. So the first recommendation, we'll go back to our public hearing items. So number 2, this is going to be 63 Stockholm, the ULURP. The recommendation from the committee was yes, with no stipulations. Is there a motion from the board to move this forward? Ann Guiney made a motion. Is there a second to move this recommendation forward? Mary McClellan second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, 1 abstention. So moved. Thank you, everyone. Moving down to agenda item number 3, this is Mr. Gabriel Check, the property owner and applicant for Landmarks Preservation Commission for 1090 Green Avenue, the historic Daring Bohack House, for the plans to remove the current porch and build a more appropriate one. Is there a recommendation? The committee recommended to approve. Is there a motion from the board for that recommendation?
I, Robert Camacho, make a recommendation to approve.
Is there a second? Martha Brown seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. 1 recusal. Okay. Moving down to the Health Hospitals Human Service Senior Citizens and Veterans Committee, there was a recommendation from the committee to write a letter on behalf of our neighbors in NYCHA in the community, and this is a letter regarding heat and hot water specifically to make sure that they have what they need and they have support from the board for heat and hot water. Is there a motion from the board to support this recommendation? Egaldi made a motion. Is there a second? Second by Ernest. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. And moving down to Public Safety Committee, you heard the recommendations from the committee. Is there a motion from the board to accept the recommendation?
I make a motion to accept the recommendations of the Public Safety Committee.
Is there a second?
I, Mary McClellan, second the motion.
Mary McClellan, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome.
That concludes all of our recommendations.
Right.
Moving down to agenda item number 8, old business. Any old business? Going once, going twice. Seeing none. Moving down to new business, agenda item number 9. Any new business this evening? Mr. Camacho?
As you know, I'm going to keep echoing new business. We need to take care of our bylaws, and we need to make sure that we keep informed on what's going to happen. We need to work together and make sure that whatever bodies may be, that we continue to work together and still be here to represent Bushwick. Thank you.
Thank you.
District manager discuss the responsible development plan. Do you want to let them know about it? Or you just want to save that for the House and Land Use Committee?
So just, I can say a few words. So Our chairperson for Housing and Land Use brought up the responsible development policy through the committee. It was referenced earlier as well. So right now the committee is currently working on taking input from the Bushwick Community Plan, from the larger community, and from principals in general in order to create a responsible development policy. What does that mean? Essentially, when developers come to the committee members typically share the same information: the composition, deeply affordable housing, family size units, what kind of local hiring, MWBEs. These are all things that come up time and time again. However, there is no formal document aside from the minutes right now which holds them accountable or instructs them or advises them before coming to the meeting. So the policy is really being created as a tool, a formal tool for them to see beforehand coming to the meetings and have a better sense of what the community expects from them, whether it is for a property that has a tax subsidy or it's for an as-of-right development. And I was told that there was some, no? Okay. Any other new business?
I don't know if this is the appropriate place, but I just want to congratulate anyone who had anything to do with this newsletter. It's informative, it's well done, and what a great thing to happen for the community. And if you don't have one, get one. There's a lot of information in here. Read it. It's great. Congratulations.
Thank you. And so the new monthly newsletter, I'm glad everyone likes it. So if you haven't gotten one, I encourage you to get one. This was made possible with the budget increase that we received for this year. So I say again, tell your elected officials that the community boards do need money. I want to make sure that you have the information you need, resources that are important to you, and this is a collaborative process. We encourage all local organizations. If you want to put content in the newsletter, please let me know, and we can make arrangements for that. All right, so moving down to agenda item number 10, announcements, 1.5 minutes. Please line up in the middle.
Announcements.
Test, 1, 2. No, I'm playing, guys. How's everybody doing? My name is Ernest Estime, community board member, CRC vice chair. CRC stands for the Civics and Religious Committee. I'm actually not making this announcement on behalf of myself, but on behalf of a fellow board member who's not here, Ms. Barbara Smith. Now, as you guys know, the holiday seasons are here. We're literally a week away from Thanksgiving. I'm not entirely sure the progress on her turkey drive that she annually has for the community council, but if you guys can, consider donating there. And if you can, definitely listen to what Mr. Camacho said earlier about helping people out. Because there's a lot of people who look like everything is just going fine, and you never know what they're going through at home. So if you can, just always greet people with smiles throughout the holiday seasons. Clearly, housing is an issue. Heat is an issue as well. So I just want to remind us to be mindful that we are all going through some things. And if we try our best to remember that, we could have a joyous holiday season. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ernest. Hi, Ann Guiney. Just to follow up on the presentation before, I'm a member of CB4. I've been working on the Bushwick Community Plan for a long time. I know people may have a lot of questions, issues, just clarification, information. I'm doing my 90 seconds. And so I would like to make myself available along with the staff of the council member's office. My email is anne.guiney@gmail, and my phone number is 917-292-9597. Might not be able to answer every question, but I will certainly try or direct you to the right place.
Thank you. Thanks, Ann.
Hi again, Anayeli from the New York City Comptroller's Office. There were 3 ballot proposals that were passed in the last election. So the comptroller came out with a whole booklet, 65 recommendations for the next charter revision. And one of them including hiring an urban planner for each community board to help with every rezoning. So that's something that, you know, as a community you should advocate for to put in the next proposal. So I have the newsletter there. Our entire booklet is online, so check it out, 65 recommendations. And then we have a Diwali celebration coming up, November 26th. So I have some flyers there. Please come out. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Boris, representing the Office of Councilmember Antonio Reynoso again. Just quickly, 2 things. The council member invested a lot of political capital, his whole term, to pass a law that he thinks is to be legendary, which is the Right to Know Act. And basically, it just reaffirms your constitutional right to deny search and seizure, especially when there's no reasonable suspicion by the cops. And so I have these pamphlets. He's going to be doing an educational tour, especially through high schools, because one of the demographics that are affected by this are men of color. They've been more than anyone stopped and frisked historically in the past in New York City. And so this law basically stipulates, and there's two bills, but I only want to discuss ours. The other bill is Richie Torres, who's a council member from the Bronx, has had some issues, but want to spare some time on that. The bill basically says that if a police officer stops and searches you, you have the right to deny that search and seizure. That is your constitutional right, and they are tasked, that PD is tasked, the police department is tasked with reading something that's similar to your Miranda rights that says, you know, I am in the process of searching, right now I'm going to search and seize you. You have the right to consent or deny, and then you can proceed as a civilian. And the second thing I want to discuss is just more of a constituent matter. On Bushwick Ave, between Willoughby and Saddam, there's parking that's like this. And if anyone remembers a parking situation, a tragic situation that happened in Bushwick with regards to Luz Gonzalez, it's because it happened in a open space that's like this in terms of parking lot. I was told, and thank you, Mr. Chair, regarding this matter from Camacho, and so I immediately acted. I connected with the Department of Buildings. I said, hey, is this legal? So what happened was that they determined that the owners, the landlord, the property owners of these properties said, applied for the incorrect permit. They applied for garage parking instead of driveway parking. So because they didn't issue the right permits, right, they, Department of Buildings then inspected and issued fines. So I'm getting you guys money. All right? And on top of that, I'm taxing predatory landlord companies as well. So just know that they were inspected, issued fines. This is still, this could still be illegal parking. They just have to apply for the correct permit. But what I want to do is work with the council member to say, hey, if there's parking that's like this, at least fence it as a law. Thank you. And thanks, Chair, for
Hey. I want to thank you because there was an incident there, and kids were going at 3 o'clock, and those people that live in that building, the landlord was charging them rent for parking their car in the front, knowing that they got a garage in the back. So the garage was in the back, the car's in the front, so he's double dipping. He's making money on both, not knowing that in front of his building was illegal. And kids were going by there to go to 274, and the kid almost got hit again. They get on the sidewalk and get out the curb and go down Saddam. I took a video, took the pictures, gave them to them. Now go by there, it's nice and clean. So I want to thank you yourself, for coming by and taking care of the problem, and we don't have another tragedy. Somebody died. Thank you. That's what we need, you young folks there to take care of us.
Thanks, Chair. And don't forget to inform your neighbors, your family members, friends about their rights when it comes to PD and stoppage. Thanks. Good evening, everyone.
You done? I hate going after Boris. He always steals the show. How's everybody doing? My name's Igari Gomez. I'm the Moore Street manager. I'm over at Moore Street, 110 Moore Street. I invited some of you to come out on Halloween, and a lot of you did and brought your kids, and that was a great event. And that was something that we held with the council member's office, and I want to thank you all for coming. We had about 200 to 300 people come around, so that was good because, you know, when it comes to EDC, I always have to find excuses to spend money. So I only spent about $2,000 for that event. I have an event coming up December 8th, 15th, and 22nd. Anyone saw this colorful flyer? I'm actually going to spend about $30,000 in this event. Yeah, I know, right? It's a holiday pop-up.
Holiday 10 seconds.
I got you. He got way more than 10 seconds, and I'm last. So holiday pop-ups don't really happen in our area, not at all. They usually happen Midtown. They happen in Fulton Street. They happen in the Southside Seaport. They really don't happen here in Bushwick. So this was something that was really important to me, and I wanted to make sure that it represents the community, which is why for, I think, the first time, we're going to be bringing Coquito Masters down, and we're going to have Coquito tasting on the 8th and the 22nd. Yeah, Coquito, bro. On the 15th, we're gonna have a parranda, and then there's gonna be music happening throughout. And the most important is we're gonna have vendors that are from the community that are gonna be able to sell their products. For instance, one of my vendors is called Latinas, and she sells socially conscious clothing for young female Latinas. And those are the type of people that you should expect there, but there's also gonna be a lot more available. So I hope you can all come. It's 110 Moore Street, December 8th, 15th, and 22nd, 12 to 8 p.m. Thank you.
I gave you enough time, all right? What time?
12 to 8. 12 to 8, yeah. And the dates are here on the flyer.
Hi, everybody. Just to let you know, Riceboro, people know them by Richard Bushwick, is volunteer for Thanksgiving Day to deliver meals to the senior citizens around the neighborhood. A couple of years ago, we used to do almost 2,000 meals. I don't know what's going on, but right now we're doing 1,000 meals in the morning. So it's no excuses. Oh, Black Friday, I don't want to go out. You could go and deliver the meals in the morning, 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. You could go and pick it up and deliver in 1 hour and go back home. So Meals on Wheels, we need volunteers. 718-366-3800. 718-366-3800. Richard Bushwick, now known as Riceboro. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and on behalf of our Public Safety Chairperson, Barbara Smith, who isn't here today, she is holding, or the Precinct Community Council is holding their annual fundraiser on Friday, November 30th this year because of scheduling in December. It's going to be at 218 Wyckoff Avenue from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Again, that's Friday, November 30th for the Christmas fundraiser. And additionally, from the 1st of this month to the 16th, they are collecting goods, canned goods at the precinct for the Thanksgiving drive. So please, if you can, donate. And then final announcement, next month is December, everyone. It's the community board holiday party. If you want to bring a dish, let me know.
Also before Barbara Smith had called me, and one of the board members is gonna get honored at that day. Zuma, could you please stand up? Everybody give her. It's not a surprise. She told me to tell her. She knew, but she's so shy she don't want to talk to her. She said she wanted to make sure she's gonna get honored on that day, and so is seven other people. So please come on out and support your board members. Thank you.
All right, congratulations. Moving us down to the second roll call. Everyone, as you're preparing to leave, please clean up your station, pick up all garbage, and let us quietly get through the second roll call. Joanna Bennett. Joshua Brown. Martha Brown. Robert Camacho. Gardier Caphart. Louisa Chan. Denise Reyna Dolan. Ernest Estime. Igaudi Gomez. Ann Guiney. Barbara Jackson. Koebe Cote. Austin Martinez. Mary McClellan. Desmond Monroe. Charlene Moore. Zuma Novoa. Luisa Jose Olea. Eliseo Ruiz. Julio Salinas. Bernardina Schell. Dustin Sonborn. Jerry Valentin. James Wiseman. Motion to adjourn from the board, please. Dustin made a motion. Is there a second? Second by Charlene. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned this evening.
Clean up, please.
Clean up.